Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. I am on the road, so my audio quality is unfortunately not going to be as stellar as it normally is. But my new co host for Hotline League, if you missed all of this, you should go check last week's episode for an explanation of why. My new co host, Cubby, is here, and Cubby's microphone should be a lot better than mine if the Skype stuff is not doing its thing. How's it going, Cubby?
Yeah, I'm not on the road. We're at the setup, and things are going good. I don't know, we played some terrible golf this morning. I've been spectating a lot of CQ. That's been fun.
Did
And
you
yeah,
play golf with anyone in particular?
yes, Jat did not play his bets today. But
Okay.
yeah, it happens. We had some other guys in the group too.
Yes,
But it was fun. How's the road been?
it's good. So I was at DreamHack this past weekend, uh, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A bunch of people came up and said really nice things to me, and somebody named Pondwater Mike came up, passed me a really nice note that said "Keep making content," and then there was two $20 bills in the envelope that it was written on, and so that was a bit of a highlight for me this weekend. I don't know why, but getting $40 from Pondwater Mike in an envelope felt like a very Atlanta thing to me. But played some good Magic, and then now I'm in a different place. I'm in Austin, Texas, for the next 3 days before I finally get home for the holidays. Which I should mention, yeah, IRL Dono, exactly. And then I should mention that this will be our last episode of Hotline League for the year. We'll be back the second week of January, I guess, since the Monday that we would be doing this will be New Year's. So you'll have 3 weeks of a break from Hotline League. But yeah, other than that, it's been good. Cubby, what have you been doing besides golfing in your free time? I used to ask Mark about what he's watched, but I don't know how you spend your downtime besides golf. I guess sports.
Yeah, I mean, I do watch sports. I'm a Bears fan. In terms of watching, right now I am rewatching Andor with someone, which is a great show. Um, and then I honestly I all I've been watching is CQ really. Like the CQ, like the goes from
Champions Queue,
5
you
to
should
11
say, right?
Pacific. Yeah, Champs Queue, yeah. But it's 5 to 11 Pacific. So like I was even streaming before this. And then I'll stream it probably after too. It's been really fun. They had 4 games going at the same time, which is great. So yeah, it's been pretty good.
Very good. I see Forgotten Pluto chat says no Mark this weekend. Boy, are they going to be surprised when they learn about the past 2 weeks of news. Yeah, no. So it's good to have Champions Queue going. What I saw a bunch of mixed conversation on Twitter, and obviously in the past we've had some criticism of players not using it enough, or the queue times being too long, and it not looking good for I guess LCS pros. How much are those issues popping up this time around?
I think it's a bit mixed at the moment. Like the fact that 4 games are going on is good, and I think that as long as CQ is on the preseason patch, which is super fun, so like the pros have special access to 14.1. Um, I think as long as they like that patch isn't live, then CQ will stay busy and alive. I think that once the live servers have that, we'll see what happens. As I'm kind of curious what, like, kind of how that affects things. But at the moment, I think it's okay. Like, people are in and out for the holidays, obviously. And, like, some of the teams are boot camping in Korea. Some players are traveling for the holidays. Some players are wrapping up school because, like, they include more than just the pros and Challengers League players. So, but a lot of the same people are playing. Hopefully, we get some more people to join. But so far, I think games are fun. Double Lift is smashing in the queue. Flippo's
I
playing
saw your
well.
tweet about him
Yeah.
being undefeated 8 games in, I think.
Yes, he's one of, if not the best players in the queue right now, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Too bad he couldn't play next year,
yeah,
but I guess that's how it goes. All
yeah.
right. Well, for this week's episode, we should say that we're going to do what Hotline League always does for the past, I guess, 6 years now, 7 years of our last episode of the year, which is we're going to have this episode be primarily focused on kind of a retrospective of 2023. Next week's episode will be, or next year's episode, the first episode that we do in 3 weeks, that will be really looking forward to 2024. So What do you think the league should do? What are you looking forward to? What are the storylines that have you hyped? What's going to be big in 2024? Big predictions or whatever. But I think 2023 is really our focus in this episode. So we're going to be looking for callers who want to talk about, hey, like this was a big win or a big loss in 2023. Here's something that I think people would have thought was crazy if you told them it was going to happen in January. Here, Mark becoming commissioner would maybe be one of mine. What things, maybe a fun story that you from an event that you attended this year. Just kind of looking back at the full year, there hasn't been too much news this past week other than Champions Queue. Twitch chat, correct me if there's anything that I'm forgetting, but other than that, I mean, like the weekend, yeah, weekdays suck. Am I right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure we can do that, but yeah, we will be focusing primarily on 2023, kind of looking back. It's a nice way to kind of end the year, right? Like we're all headed into the holidays. Let's look back on the past 12 months and talk a little bit about what we thought about it as we head into the next year. So that's what we're going to be doing. I have given Cubby the pep talk on how to do calls
Wish
and
me luck.
polls.
Is it time
Yes.
to do the first one?
Well, so right now, normally is when we tell people to go type in subtopics or pleb topics. If you're a sub, make sure that you sync with Discord so you get access to the subtopics channel. Otherwise, you'll be using the pleb topics channel on Discord. That's discord.gg/Travis. You can do !Discord in the chat if you want to get that going. But you'll want to start putting your takes in there, and you can at Cubby. It helps him see your take. But yeah, pleb topics, subtopics, and start looking for those. When you do put one of your takes into one of those topic channels, make sure that you've joined a voice channel on the Discord, because what's going to happen is Cubby's going to pull you into the waiting room, and he can't pull you into the waiting room if you're not also in one of the voice channels. So make sure you're in one of the voice channels. That way he can pull you in the waiting room. You'll wait in the waiting room until Cubby comes to get you, and then we will be good. Also, I'm still recovering from that cold that I had last week. It's mostly gone, but I will have to mute at times to cough, like right now. Anyway, other than that, Cubby, do you see any takes in pleb topics or subtopics? And you can
I'm
just sort of slowly pull them into the waiting room
I'm jumping in
as
there.
you see them
Here we
coming.
go. Here we
Okay.
go.
Okay, while you're doing that, oh, he's off to go grab the first caller. Here, he's much more eager than Mark. I love it. All right, so while he's grabbing our first caller, shout out to Deus Volt, Christabel for 72 months. Holy shit. Penguin Buddy, Son of Killy, 72 months. That's 6 years. My God. Magnificent, and Son of Keely also gifted a sub. Numigo Rars, and some more subs that we will get to in just a second. But our first caller is here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
farmerginge calling from Calgary, Alberta, Canada again.
Barbara Jens, welcome back to the show. What do you want to talk about this week?
Cubby pulled me in for talking about the viewership in the LCS because we all love the doom and gloom going into next year.
Yes.
So I did read something that it pulled in just over 223,000 peak viewership on the finals this summer split, and I think that's worrying considering you have three teams departed. Two big, I would say bigger teams in EG and TSM, right? TSM's the main one. That even with Mark announcing viewership going back to the weekends, I don't see any change in those viewership numbers really at least going into this first year.
So you end with going into this first year. We're trying to talk about this year, Farmer Ginge.
Okay,
No, that's on me. That's on me. I failed.
Yeah.
I failed the first call.
but
It's
it
okay. It's
okay,
okay. This is
but
your
it
pilot
is a good
episode.
point
Don't
that
worry. We can have
I
bugs.
think they did say it was the lowest viewed finals in modern LCS history, right?
Yeah. So I would re-trigger this as to say, like, let's look at the decisions that were made this year and how they led to viewership, because you're talking a little bit about like teams leaving. That did happen this year, but it didn't happen before summer finals, right?
No, that's
I
true.
think we probably knew that by that. I'm trying to remember the timeline. I think we probably knew by that point in time that TSM was leaving,
Hmm.
but
Yep.
We knew going
obviously
into
they're
summer
not.
split, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I think let's keep this focused on why we thought viewership was lower this year, and I do think that the weekday stuff. I mean, at the end of this year, we can say pretty big failure in terms of they said that they thought it would increase viewership. Viewership went down dramatically. Even if summer finals was on a weekend itself, the impact of the amount of people that you lost on a weekly basis, I think, led to a far more diminished viewership for the summer finals than we saw previously. So I think it's a pretty big flop. Cubby, do you think there were any other things this year that led to diminished viewership that we can kind of highlight?
um, I mean, I thought the broadcast was like fine this year. I would say I'm in the position where I'm not on the broadcast like Mark, but like that is my job as well. And I think that like they at least tried to iterate on the formula that had like definitely saw some wins. Like I think Mark's content was pretty good. And some of the other people like had a win as well. This past year. Um, I don't know. Maybe like we always see a decline in summer. Like spring to summer, like there's usually more viewership in spring because like in the summer, more people are just like outside and out and about. Um, but I don't know. Maybe it was like I don't like really know like any other options. You know, I feel like it
Yeah,
was
I
like
mean, I
mostly just
think
the time slot.
I won't harp on it too much because people know, but I do think that as long as we have players hopping around so much, like that we'll continue to take this hit year after year. And even if viewership goes up next year, I think that increase will be depressed by the fact that you have this situation where players have or fans have a hard time getting attached to teams and players because they change so frequently. Um, and I think we saw that a little bit this year, even just in the fact that like Bjergsen was playing in the beginning of the year and then he wasn't again. Like there's just a lot
Yeah.
of stuff like that that ends up causing issues. And I do think that the strike or the walkout or whatever you want to call it also did not help.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
probably had a depressing impact on viewership, even if I think it was good that they did that.
I think like scheduling too, like it definitely is good to be consistent about scheduling. And obviously like going to weekdays, but also the strike, like pushing that back. I mean, that's um yeah, I think that's a good call as well. I'm trying to think of like other like outside factors or formulas. Like I feel like people have been down in NA for a while and like their chances to win internationally. So like I don't really feel like that had like a compounding impact on like things or like viewership this year. Um, I just like some of the pillars of the league have left, and it feels like we don't really have players that have been able to like fill in and take that spot yet.
Yeah.
Given like consistency of players, but also like there was a long time era in the LCS where if you didn't have sneaky double lift or wild turtle, you weren't in a final, and that's like pretty crazy to think back and look at, and like yeah, it's just like it's not like we don't have players like that yet.
2022 summer finals, that was C900 Thieves, right? I'm not crazy.
The which final?
2022 summer.
It would have had to be 100 Thieves because they were in three in a row. No.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it
and they
was.
won
Okay.
21 summer.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's also a bit of a thing was uh, having it be NRG instead of 100 Thieves. As much as like the NRG fans want to shame me, like I do think, look, it was a brand new team to the league. Obviously, it was CLG, but from a brand perspective, it was brand new. And I think you might have also just had more people. Like if we're just comparing summer finals to summer finals, which obviously I know this is a bit of a conversation about broader viewership trends, I do think that we just had like a less popular finals from a team perspective as well. So I think there's a lot of different things that go into that viewership being down this year versus the previous year. But no doubt that weekdays was probably the single biggest lead of that, and certainly was not the increase that we thought it was going to be. So
Do you think
uh,
that change? or even a noticeable change going forward with the weekends? Because I know, for example, for me personally, I'm in my early 30s now. I'm 31, turning 32. There's no way I would ever view during the weekday because work, right? And even then, now at the weekend, like maybe when I was in my like early 20s, mid 20s, I was in university. Yes, I would watch the LEC and LCS every weekend, but now I don't even really have the time or energy for it. So I wonder how much of the viewership is kind of the aging population like me, and how many new viewers are really coming in.
I mean, I think that people could still watch stuff. Like, I think it's a incorrect assumption to just think like you get older, you have less time. Um, I know that
Certainly
that
for
defies
live
a.
for me. I
What's
still
that?
watch VODs, just to clarify that. I still watch VODs, I just don't watch the live broadcast that much anymore.
I yeah, I just don't feel like I feel like that is one of those like conventional wisdom things that I don't think always necessarily plays out. Maybe because you could always make the argument that like, oh, younger people are more likely to go out and go on some trip or do something or hang out with friends versus as people get older they spend more time at home or something like it. I'm not saying that it's incorrect, but I don't think it's something that's worth just automatically assuming, if that makes sense.
I also think that like there was a wave of people that like came in and kind of like with COVID, right? Um, like when COVID hit, like a lot of people, were I found more people watching LCS. Like COVID is personally the reason like I even got back in the space like to work, right? Because I was kind of done with it with college and I was working a full time job, and then COVID hit. I couldn't find any work, so it was my excuse to kind of get back into this. Um, so I think that's like the last wave where we would have seen some new people. And it's interesting. Like one of my biggest issues that I've had is like it's really tough to convince high schoolers or kids to play League. Because like when I picked up this game, I was a sophomore in high school and there was like 85 champions and the game was whatever, right? And now it's like double that number. And you ask any high schooler, like they don't want to play League, they want to play something way simpler. And I think that is, in order to be a fan of the game, you have to play the game. Like with esports, like it's impossible to understand League like without playing it in some way. So I think that like there are ways like the game could function to like try and cater towards new fans. Like they had recommended jungle pathing and ability leveling they put in the client this year, which I thought was really good. But I still think like there are new fans. It's just like each year there's just less, right? Um, I think that is a reasonable assumption given like the shelf life and lifespan of games. But I still think like Riot can pull levers or do things to like try and get more people involved. So
So I do want to just address Malqua in the Twitch chat. He says Travis is mega coping. If anything, a team like NRG brings a lot more viewers than a dead org like CLG. Nobody cared about CLG. I was specifically talking about finals because we're comparing viewership of C9 versus 100 Thieves in 2022 summer to C9 versus NRG in 2023 summer. And you're comparing CLG to NRG. I'm comparing 100 Thieves to NRG in terms of a viewership poll in the finals. So just to clarify if anybody else is confused, like Malqua. Um, all right, Farmer Ginge, thanks so much for the call. Anything that you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Shout out to Cubby. Good luck going forward, man. Taking over from Mark Z. Good shout out to Travis, and everyone have a happy holidays.
Thank you
thanks
so
for being
much.
an easy first caller.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's good start. Good start. All right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, see you guys.
Have a good one. All right, off we go to the next caller. I got to tell Cubby to stick around for a second whenever we lose somebody. Max Drixton, thank you for the 46 months. Brenny the Croc, thank you for 23. Cowiz for the 4. The Catman for 17. Fishy for a whole year. Ostrider gifted a sub. Rennie gifted a sub. And then Pizza Chant, LOL, thank you for the Prime. Let's see. What do you guys talk about in chat? I have no idea. Travis is now responding in chat instead of Mark. To chat instead of Mark. I would do that sometimes. But yeah. Also, it looks like we only have 2 calls in the waiting room right now, so feel free to continue to put your takes in the plug topics and subtopics chat. We'll continue to pull them. Also, I should have mentioned this earlier, but we will have probably a shorter episode this week because it is just there's less stuff going on. So if we end up only going for about an hour and a half or whatever, I apologize. But it's just sort of it's a quieter week. So looks like Manny is here. Manny, where are you calling from?
Columbia, Missouri.
From where?
Columbia, Missouri.
Hey,
From
I
Missouri.
competed in a land there at Columbia College.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
I live about a mile from it.
Cool.
Nice. Well, very good. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Manny?
I'm excited to see LCS come back to the weekends, and more importantly, I really hope that the LCS invest in leveling up the level of play in NA. And I think one of the ways they could do this is going back to a best of 3 format. If you look at Korea, China, EU, while we were doing best of ones and trying to milk every dollar from advertisers and doing clown fiesta recruitment, they were busy chugging away with best of 3s and best of 5s. And guess what? Their viewership went up because the competitiveness of their league was better. I think the LCS is kind of in the toilet right now. So now's a good time to invest in leveling up our play and the integrity of the league.
I will mention what I said at the start of the show, which is that we're mostly trying to pull takes about 2023.
Yep.
I'm blaming callers as much as I'm blaming Cubby for this.
Nope. This one's on me. I felt like at least the weekends. Of course, we need to give the weekends a shout. But I don't know, kind of curious. It's the last. There was a rumor of the best of 3 format. We had some news this week that it's likely to be best of 1s with tickets releasing.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Cubby. This is how we'll recontextualize this. Manny's take is that in 2023, we heard there was a rumor that Riot was considering switching to best of 3s. And in 2023, we also learned when the schedule came out that they probably were not. So, the great way to couch this conversation that way, Cubby. All right, so Manny, you want best of 3s. And can you elaborate one more time on why you think it's important for us to kill the viewership of the league even more than we have?
I just think that the viewership of the league is down, so now's time to try to level up the gameplay. To really invest in the integrity of the league. Like, we tried buying players from every other region. We tried going to flashy segments and best of 1s. Like, I think we just have to go back to basics and what's great about League.
Manny, you know that we had our highest viewership ever when we had best of 1s.
Well, there was 2 streams for best of 3s, Travis. You know.
I know, but just this theory that we'd have more viewership if we had best of 3s is always wild. Okay, Cubby, I know that unlike Mark, this is where people can get excited for you on here is the co-host in contrast to Mark. Because the conversations will be different for the next 300 episodes because you have different takes than Mark. Mark was also a best of 3 doubter, like myself. You, I believe, are a best of 3 believer. So why don't you lead this call for now?
I actually have the highest take of all, which is that I think the best way to run a League of Legends regular season is with best of 2s. Because each team gets a single choice of side. I know, it's tough, but you get a single choice of side, and you're gonna play a double round robin anyway, so you might as well play it on the same patch.
Captain Flowers in chat screams in capital letters, "Fuck off, dude, absolutely not. I will quit the league, fuck BO2. Papa Smithy says, yes, best of 2 enjoy, or BO2 enjoyers based.
I know that ties can kind of suck. I would rather have I will say this. I would rather have a single best of 3 round robin than a double round robin with best of 1s. I do think that best of 3s, I would rather have that. But yeah, actually, my favorite format is actually best of 2s. I'm not kidding. It's if you have a patch where blue side's a 70% win rate, which can happen in this game, all of a sudden, series can be flipped on side select, or like what you win the coin flip on, or like where in the schedule you actually like, get to like choice a side for game one. So I actually think that like best of two is a really good way to compete in the game.
The commissioner of the league says, Keck, I know how to get Flowers to quit. Clearly, he's trying to save money already by cutting down on talent. So, I mean, Cubby, what do you... We were talking about best of threes. Now you're taking us to best of twos. When LEC did, well, at the time I think it was EU LCS did best of twos. It was, I feel like, even more unpopular than best of threes were in North America. People hated the tie thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care as much about the tie thing. And like that is like that can be solved with best of threes too, but yeah, I for scheduling purposes, and like if some of the concerns are like money or like what the schedule is on a day, like you can actually schedule 3 best of twos on a day. You cannot schedule 3 best of threes on a day. So that's another pro for best of twos.
Yeah, well, okay. Let me ask you this, Cubby. If you also used Hotline League to bounce your way up into the commissioner job, and you were in charge, you had to care about viewership and fan sentiment.
Yeah.
What format of these 3 would you choose? BO1, best of 2, best of 3?
If it's purely fan sentiment,
no, it's just like the health of the league.
Health of the league?
I know that you tend to come from things from a, like, you were a coach, you've done like some playing and stuff like that. Like, I know you tend to think about things more from the like team perspective almost, right? Or player perspective, coach perspective. But from an ecosystem perspective, like a broad perspective, and you had to choose one of these 3, which would you choose?
I'm sticking with the best of 2. I think it actually balances out. No, I think it actually balances out a lot of things. First off, schedule. It's best for broadcast schedule and for teams. Teams care about the schedule. Like best of 3 like throws variables in for the teams. Yes, you will have ties, but that's fine. You at least get to play more than one game against your opponent, which is important for iterating on. Like as a team, like you will learn from playing a team back to back, right? For the fans don't like ties, they'll grow to accept it. That's fine. Best of twos was the old OGN format. It was great for groups. I thought it worked out well. The whole 3 points, if you 2-0, 1 point if you split for each team, and 0, like that's fine. Like I think it makes a really fun tournament format as well. It's doable. Yeah, I also want to say
best of twos can offset the loss of Captain Flowers to the league, because apparently you're accepting that.
No, it can't. No. All right. I'm not making that call.
Yeah, I'm saying you're the commissioner of the league. You literally just learned that Captain Flowers would not be casting if you do best of twos. So I don't know if that you still make that decision. I mean,
let's say that Mark has the real opportunity to like big dick his way into the commissioner intro with that. Just kill off a team member.
Caller, what do you think of Cubby's best of 2 idea? Because in some ways he's splitting your and my opinions on best of 1 and best of 3 to come up with best of 2.
I am open to new ideas and new thinking. For years we've seen NA just be the meme of competitive league play, and we throw our best teams into tournaments at the end of the year and walk away with feeling shame and embarrassment. And so I'm down for trying something new.
Manny, you know where our teams always lose? They lose in best of 1s.
Perhaps so. I just know I always like when we have this conversation, I always go back to what Double Lift would always say about best of 1s, and that it's basically a coin flip on best of 1s a lot of times. I mean, granted, the better team is always going to have an edge, but in a lot of best of 1s, it can just be a coin flip where a series shows more talent and adaptation to meta and picks and things like that.
I think the biggest thing about a best of 1 regular season is that best of 1s compared to best of 2s and best of 3s, teams are more motivated to play to not lose. Like the way the league works as a game is like in a lot of the drafts, like LPL or like the teams taking best of threes, like you are able to take a draft. Like if you don't win in the first 3 to 5 minutes, it's okay because you have 2 other games like you can win, right? You can't do that in best of ones. Like a lot less teams will try that in best of ones because the stakes are a lot higher for that single game. So like they'll opt for safer strategies. And I think like over the long haul, like NA's issue, it's never been jungle play. It's not really been map play. A lot of it has been like mechanics being good enough to like actually break the game, which is like what the LPL is like the best at doing, and what LCK is like able to do, like replicating lane states really well. I think that best of series, like playing games back to back, like being forced to iterate, are the best way to like actually like work on those skills that have been weaknesses like of the region. So yeah.
Yeah, you know where they do that? On a daily basis in scrims.
That is true.
I mean, this is a mark line that I'll parrot because he was always great at pointing out that like these players and teams are playing each other a shit ton all week long, adding best of threes instead of best of ones to the stage is not suddenly going to give everybody like twice as much experience or twice as much practice or whatever. That's just not the way it goes. Anyway, thank you so much, Manny, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out to Alienware, and thank you guys for what you do. Been a long time fan.
I appreciate it.
And Cubby, you don't need to run. You don't need to run immediately. By the way, I should have given you this note. You could always pause for a second, and then I'll wait. I'll say, and Cubby's off to get the next caller. That way, if we ever want to have like a quick chat about the call, or I need to go to like a sponsor break or something, we're good.
I was trying to get to the fans,
No, I appreciate it. It's an amount of energy that my previous co-host did not have. How are we doing? I see we only have 2 more takes in the waiting room. Are you looking for more takes?
I'm pulling more. I got a couple more to pull. I'm just I'm milking them.
Okay, well, make sure, folks, that you're pitting takes and subtopics and pleb topics because Cubby's still looking. So, thank you to Steve the Sleeve, Bill Gunn, Tamaine for gifting a sub, Joe Badiah, Vlogfinity, and yeah, thanks everybody for the subs. We're looking mostly to talk about 2023. So, folks, if you had something that you thought was a big win or a big loss or something you'd like to see us talk about from a 2023 perspective, please call in. Our next caller is here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm Mogul, and I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Mogul, welcome back to the show. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So, just picking up from where the last callers left off and looking forward, Mark Z is going to destroy the LCS content. I'm kidding. So I just wanted to give props to NRG for essentially subverting expectations, both coming into Summer Split and out of Summer Split, like into playoffs. I don't think anyone believed that they would win LCS at all. So I just kind of wanted to give them props and like think about the ramifications of them actually just winning it all, even though being massive underdogs.
No, I really like this call because I think one of my favorite things about these episodes is if you were at the start of 2023 or start of the year and somebody told you something happens, how shocking would it be to you? And excuse me. And if you said NRG wins summer, I think almost everybody would have said, who is NRG? Because at the time, CLG was in the league. We had no idea they were going to sell. And you would have never expected CLG. Like, even if you had said CLG wins summer, people would have been like, what the fuck? CLG, that team, that org that most people think should probably sell? Like, it is crazy, like what NRG's story was. And that's only going up to summer. When you get to talking about Worlds, it is a whole nother thing. So I really do love this take, Mogul. But I think that they are one of the defining stories of the LCS in 2023. And, we're not doing too much looking forward to it, but I think when it is 2024, that's going to be one of the huge narratives that we look back on is the rise, the entrance of NRG and the rise of them and the surprising performance that they were able to put on twice, once in summer and then again at Worlds. But Cubby, what do you think?
I mean, I think that is the biggest story. Like, this was a team like at its core that in spring they took 5th, 6th, playing TL like really closely, right? And it was a very close best of 5 in like or I should say summer of 2022. My bad. And then spring, like they're okay. They make a couple changes and like they have a decent regular season where they're beating all the good teams, like dropping bad games, and they just go through playoffs. They knew the patch really well and they won. There was like the funny tweets about like Steve put the tweet out of like the entire staff like on stage, and like they ended up like winning it all. Someone in the chat said they had 0 all pros. Like, yeah, they had 0 all pros. Like they still won it all. It was the orgs like first split back in the LCS, right? If you told me like any of these things, like that's pretty crazy, right? And it was pretty much a team of all players that have been like in NA or competing in NA for a long time, like plus Ignar, like ended up making things work. Like that's rather wild, right? So I think that like NRG winning was definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. And I'm curious to see like if they're able to have the same success again next split, or if it was just a one split thing. I think that's gonna be a really interesting topic moving forward to 24 as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I would give, I mean, we talk a lot about their performance, but I also think the brand, the organization has done a decent job of entering the space also as a brand. And I think it's a lot easier to do that when you are lifting trophies. You can come in and try to create a bunch of cool content and maybe nobody will watch it if you're just at the bottom of the pack. But they, I think, have shown, like, I don't always like latch onto the brand myself, like the why not us line that they used for summer finals or whatever. It was like it didn't resonate with me too much, but like I like that they tried it. It was a lot more than a lot of orgs do. And from a content perspective, they've put out a bunch of stuff like the Dokla Fiverr videos and stuff like that. I think have been really cool. So I think just to me, we can even talk about like their roster announcement stuff, right? The re-signing of players or Dokla coming back and all that stuff. That content, I think, was in the top half of the league in terms of roster announcements for 2024. So I've just been happy to also have them as an org in the league. I think they care in a way that some of the other orgs don't, and maybe even I still have been disappointed in Shopify from that perspective. So, yeah, I'm really happy with NRG both as the team and as the org in the league.
I also just like want to give a shout out to, I think that some of the NRG content, like they are carrying water or carrying on some of the momentum that we saw from COG like in the back half. Like I actually think that COG as an org with this core, we're doing decent content and like also helping to promote these guys. Like they had a video of like how Doko gets to work. They had like Palafox like in the loft, like that was kind of cool, like in the office, like kind of slice of life stuff about players. And I appreciate that content, like when you get to humanize them, like when the players are on board too. And I feel like they've kind of ran with that as well, and kind of put like their own twist and resources behind it, which is great. So yeah,
been a fan of everything they've been doing in the league. So shout out to NRG for 2023, both on and off the Rift, I guess we can say. And great call, by the way, Mogul. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break to talk about our sponsor?
Yeah, shout out to you, Travis. You and Hotline League were solely keeping Mark back and holding him back through extremely bad takes, just tempering him. And now that he's unleashed, he's definitely going to destroy the LCS and Cubby, because he's going to be the best co-host Hotline League has ever seen already.
Yeah, well, I'm glad Cubby will be here as we watch Mark burn the ship down around us over at the LCS. So thank you so much for the call. I'll catch you next time. All right. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware. I love Alienware. I'm on the road right now. I am using an Alienware notebook to stream this to you. I should be clear. It's not a Alienware microphone. I know some people are disappointed in my microphone audio right now, and that is why you are not getting that. But just the fact that while I'm on the road, I can continue to do this. I said at the start of the show, but if anybody's tuning in just now, I'm in Austin, and I am just streaming off of a notebook. And the fact that I can have that level of support from them so that I can continue to create content on the road, that is just phenomenal. You can go to over to alienware.com/Travis if you would like and take a look at the deals that they have here at the end of the year, these holiday deals. I know things are getting tight and timelines and all that stuff on ordering products that are going to arrive in time for the holidays, but I will say a lot of you I know are on holiday break, or maybe you have some free time during the holidays. So even if it doesn't necessarily arrive in time for, say, Christmas, why don't you go get yourself something that's going to allow you to play amazing games in great quality, get some high FPS in League or Valorant, so that you can climb ladder during the holidays. Just relax, unwind with an amazing Alienware product, and they have fantastic things over there. Alienware gaming laptops like the Alienware M18, which has NVIDIA GeForce RTX graphics quality in it, graphics cards. You have the amazing monitors with high refresh rates that are fantastic. You have the new, excuse me, you have the new desktops that they are putting out, which grab one of those things, put it on your desk. The Alienware Aurora R16, it is going to take up less space on your desk than previous Alienware desktops, and yet still provide amazing quality that you know and love from Alienware. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. If you do go and purchase an Alienware notebook or desktop or accessory, please do so through alienware.com/Travis so that they know that you did that on our behalf, especially as we enter the renewal period for 2024. But either way, thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show, and thanks so much for continuing to support us. So yeah, thanks to Alienware, and thank you to all for supporting them. All right, Cubby is off to grab the next caller, and as he runs off, I do want to give a shout out to Vlogfinity, Kanoke, and EMBW for the subs. By the way, I will be streaming throughout the holidays off and on, especially because Twitch is running a bunch of promotions right now. Bits, if you sub with Bits, you get 10% extra bits sent in. I said sub with Bits. You send bits. You don't sub with them. But that's a big thing. And then they're doing a bunch of discounts around subs as well. I think some of those are available now, not all of them. I can't find it. Somebody in Twitch chat will mention it. But yeah, if you do want to support the show here at the end of the year, there's a bunch of ways to do it at a discounted way or with some extra oomph on the bit side. Yeah, NFC says 25% off subs, so it's pretty cool. Thank you to everybody who's doing that stuff. Hey, we got our next caller here. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm Evies. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Nice. Welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about?
Quick story. So I've been trying to get my friends into League esports this year, and we had a great time watching Worlds Finals last year. So we decided to watch LCS together for spring and summer split. One of them got really into JoJopion and Evil Geniuses, and another one became a fan of Golden Guardians. So this has been a great off-season. But that aside, yeah.
How are you and your friend feeling these days?
I have watched LCS, LCK, LEC, and all of the international broadcasts, like all of them for the last 3 years. So I'm fine. I think I'm just, I don't know. I'm going to do my best next year to try to get him,
Well, do you
keep him
think
interested.
that your friends will continue to watch, or sort of what's their sentiment?
So they like fantasy football, and so that's the angle that I used is let's play fantasy league. So I'm not sure what fantasy LCS is going to look like in the spring, but whenever we get details about that, I'll try to rope them in again and be like, hey, let's go do it again. But if that's not a thing, then I could honestly go 50-50 on if they are going to continue to watch. I'm going to keep linking them like whatever I can, but we'll see.
Cubby, I'll throw to you because somebody said fantasy football.
All right, do you play fantasy football? You in the playoffs right now?
No, I don't give a shit about
I'm
sports.
talking to the caller, Travis. Talking to the
Oh,
caller.
I know
bad.
nothing about football, and I know
All right,
nothing
all right,
about
that's
fantasy
fine.
football. So
I do think that fantasy games like can be great support around the league and a game. It can give you a lot of reason to root for stuff that you wouldn't usually root for, and dumb stuff like I need this support to die 10 times to have a chance of winning. That can make the game kind of fun. I think it's interesting. Like I guess like as someone that is a newer fan, I kind of like do want to ask you like what are the things that like your friends particularly like enjoy like or about like the league, or like what are like some wins or like things looking back that like you thought were really cool for 23.
So yeah, and the second part of my take was specifically that I wanted to shout out the broadcast for these kinds of moments that were more accessible, that I could link them clips if they missed the broadcast, or kind of have them watch and say, hey, this is a reason to keep watching. The one in particular that I called out was in the summer split. There was that day where the whole shtick of the day was, can Gigi break the 9-9 curse bit? Like they had the they did a sketch or something, and they had an award ceremony, and that stuck out to me as something that was particularly, like, I appreciated it because for those friends as entry-level viewers, not really necessarily into league, they could really easily latch on to this whole like, oh, this is really funny. Like they haven't won 9 times before. That's funny. This bit's funny. Let's see if they can do it. And then when they did it, it was great. So just moments on the broadcast that make it easy for someone that doesn't know, I don't want to say know anything, but like isn't really as immersed in the history, or really plays a lot of League of Legends, can kind of easily find something to cheer for, or think something is funny, or want to see a bit continue, or that kind of thing. Those have been great. They're also really into fashion, so the shout out to the Flickr albums that LCS puts out, and the pictures of, I think they did a lifestyle shoot for spring
summer?
finals.
Or spring, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're into shoes, the shoe game is pretty good with the LCS players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been good. So
I really like what you were saying when you talked about that Golden Guardians 9-9 thing, because I think for me, I'm trying to remember back, but I think maybe I even felt like it was overplayed on the broadcast that day, or like, wow, they're really pushing this. I mean, I think they had some fun stuff with it, but like some of that stuff, it's a good reminder that some of that stuff that might feel a little cheesy or a little like, okay, yes, we get the narrative over and over again, for the Reddit viewing uh, viewer, or the like Twitch chat person who's been watching this league forever, can be incredibly valuable to somebody who is like new to the league. To your point around this, like help give that person who is tuning in for like the first time, or maybe the first split, something to latch onto in terms of stakes, I think is really smart, and something that I think Mark and the rest of the LCS are going to need to think about in the next year as they look to recapture viewers that they've lost. I have a video that I recorded. I don't even think it's up for members yet. I need to see if I need to go set it live. In fact, I haven't set it yet because it was recorded before the weekend announcement came out. But where I just talk about, like, there's a lot that the league will need to do next year to recapture viewers that it lost this year. And I'm not trying to veer too much into 2024, but just thinking about the things in 2023, the viewers that we lost, and also, what were the things we did this year that were good at getting people. And it sounds like that's a pretty good example. So thank you for the call. I think it's really good. You said without fantasy, there's a 50-50 chance that they just don't watch next year.
we'll see. I got a dedicated Discord channel in their server to post clips to. So I'm gonna keep clipping
Nice.
anything that I can think is funny over, and highly recommend that they watch things. And maybe we'll, if there's a road show for spring that ends up being accessible, I'll try to convince them to go. And then if they are going, then yeah, then I have a better case. So we'll see.
Yeah. No, I really like that. Thank you for, by the way, for continuing to push the league to people because there's so much doom and gloom. I mean, Cubby, I'm sure you experience this too, where sometimes you just see so many people who are so self-defeatist about the future of the league, or oh, why is Mark taking this job whenever the league's going to die, or Travis, what do you do? Are you switching to Magic so you can get out of here? And for me, I love to hear when people are doing the opposite, and really trying to like, hey, no, I do care about the league and I want to get people into it. I think that that's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, it's hard because like once you get in the weeds of working, like I mean I started off as a fan, right? Like I watched day one of season 3. Like I remember watching, like rushing back from high school and watching, and like I was a fan like while in college, and like I can't be a fan anymore like I used to, right? But it's fun when I hear people, especially like that are new fans, because that is just not me. And there's a lot of power to like being new to something. Like when we worked at a startup, like we would bring in interns and just be like in the first week, just like tell us whatever you think, right? Because like sometimes like when you look at something forever, like you just don't catch very obvious things, right? Or like you don't realize things as like, okay, like that works, right? So I am glad that we have like continue to find some new fans. And yeah, I hope we get more and more. So but yeah, thanks. I really appreciate your call. Thanks a lot for joining us, Evies.
No problem.
Yep, and thank you so much. Anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
Shout out Alienware, shout out Hotline League for being my favorite Monday evening live League of Legends related viewer call-in show. You guys are smashing that corner of the market. But no, I really do like I really do look forward to Monday evenings and being able to kind of just tune in as part of my weekly routine. Yep, shout out my partner and shout out a certain very friendly Discord server. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully you'll call in again in the future with that positivity.
I'll let you know.
All right, off we go to the next caller. Cubby's so quick. I gotta get him to slow down. Okay, shout out to Bayora for the 27 months and Bowen Chung with the 200 bits. Thank you. Yes, bits are they're bonus right now. If you have bits sitting around, now's the time to spend them on your favorite stream. Doesn't have to be this one, but it's just a nice little Twitch promotion they're doing right now where you send bits, they give people 10% more or whatever. Let's see. See people in chat talking about stuff. Is Travis at a hotel? No. I am at a friend's house in Austin. Okay, we got Olympius here. Olympius, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from London, United Kingdom.
Ooh,
You're calling from the UK. What time is it there?
It is 4 a.m. and I have work in 5 hours.
Okay, we'll try to get you through this then. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So, my conspiracy take for the show is that 2023 proved that C9, as an organization, is content with only having success locally and resting on their NA laurels. I think this stems from them having been on the top for so long and not feeling like they have any competition. And I think esports winter also probably has something to do with this, in the sense that where surviving is just the goal for other organizations, C9 has enough of brand recognition to stay alive without doing well internationally. That's my take. I can further support it more, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, go. My prediction is one thing you're going to say is like they should have dropped fudge. I hate fudge. Fudge bad. But go ahead, prove me wrong.
No, not at all. I think it's actually like on two fronts. They're kind of proving that they're content with having success locally. The slightly weaker take or front is that on the content side, 2023 I think was a really strong year for them. Obviously, having a player like Sven on the team means that C9 was very strong on content and in terms of like boosting up viewership on whatever they had. But even on the competitive side, I think that they clearly just didn't show the drive when they competed internationally, and yet it seems like as an organization, C9 didn't really do anything to shake up whatever they were trying to do. They were just trying to do the usual construct the super team, right? Like, I mean, if we take a look at 2023 spring, like they won spring playoffs. They had a regular season record of 14-4. In summer, they were 13-5. sure, they ended up losing to NRG, but like locally, it seems that they were super happy with the success overall. Yet when it comes to international events, like in 2023 MSI, they lost very, very convincingly to BLG, 3-0'd. Meanwhile, Golden Guardians managed to at least get a game off of BLG. So I think that proved that they were better than C9. And obviously, I don't need to even talk about Worlds, where C9 was like 1-3 compared to NRG making it to quarterfinals. And so I think despite this disappointing success, it kind of just our success or like failures, I guess, and internationally, I don't see enough of a change and that's my take.
What? Okay, but I still don't understand. What did you want them to do differently?
I think they needed to really shake up. You know what? Honestly, that's a good question. I just wanted them to do something different. And it seems to me that they're complacent right now and not really hungry for that international success. I don't know what that different thing is, whether it's pulling more from local NA talent rather than just, having the biggest pockets and trying to pull the best players from all the other teams.
They did get
no.
JoJo and Vulcan, which is I'd say what did you think of their offseason? If because for me, you're implying hey, we wanted to see them switch things up, and they did make some changes this offseason, but is there anything else that you were looking for? Did you want more support behind the scenes? Did you want a different player in the lineup, or what are you thinking?
I mean, I think I wanted new players in the lineup. That's potentially one thing. So I actually think Fudge is fine in his role and was happy to do for that. And probably, the off-season changes did help to kind of combat that feeling that I have that they were being complacent. But I guess just in general, if we're talking retrospectively throughout the year, I just don't think that they made enough changes, maybe even in the year, to really prove that they want to have that success internationally. So that's kind of the reason why I think they're only content with only being good in NA.
Okay. I guess it's a struggle for me because I feel like you're well, they lost, and so they're content with that. But I have not seen anything to indicate that them losing means they're content with losing. I mean, everyone other than T1 lost at Worlds this year. I don't think that means all of those teams were content with losing at Worlds. You know what I mean?
I mean, hey, I read Emines's post, and he definitely was not content. He might have called some other people content, but he definitely wasn't on that team. So, no, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think everyone's competitive, especially over at C9. I actually really appreciated the video that Mithy and High put out with their manager. It was a 50-minute retrospective about the last year and the changes they made for the upcoming year. And I definitely feel C9 they were an org to me that early on, kind of had this idea of healthy body, healthy mind. We're gonna figure out a system to have players on a good schedule and get them to train like athletes, right? And I think a lot of other teams have kind of adapted this along the way. They've definitely catered their terminology to play towards the systems. It's a bit of a meme. I like the changes. They don't feel like a complacent team to me. I think that the struggles that they had in summer for me was they talked about being struggling to adapt, and I think that doesn't equal complacency. They were honest about Sven playing engaged supports, right? They felt he was stronger on Enchantresses, and they were stronger as a team when he was on Enchantresses versus in engage, and that took steps to work on, right? I think that I like Fudge as a player. I think Fudge is a good top laner, and I'm really glad the C9 kept Fudge. I don't think that he had his best split in the summer. Fudge is a player that for me has improved throughout his career, and you can win this region with Fudge as a top laner, and that's been very tough to do historically if you don't have impact or even someday where a lot of those teams have been competitive, right? Fudge is a player where you can win the league with him as a top laner. I don't think he had his best summer, but by no means do I that means complacency, right? Yeah, I don't know. I feel and M&S, they swapped out M&S for JoJo, and JoJo's the best player to get in the offseason. He's going to be probably the highest paid player going into next year. I mean, that is,
like to me, C9's like making very aggressive moves, if anything, to like moving forward. So yeah, I don't know. I found it interesting because like at least like this take, I just like this is not the perspective that I have on C9. I was kind of curious like what your thoughts were. But yeah, for me, I think that C9 is definitely a team that like I'm curious like who can push them because like a lot of people are putting their roster first, even though NRG won. And looking at their roster, I think that that's not out of line at all. Their roster is crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks
Do
so
you
much,
think
Olympius.
that?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, my last thing was just gonna be: do you guys think that C9 maybe tried to look too far ahead during summer split because they were, thought that they had summer split in the bag, and that's the reason why they lost second? That
I
they
definitely
got
think
second.
they did not have their best showing in summer finals, and I don't know if that's because they just had an off day or the team started to argue with each other or what went on there. Maybe they were just overconfident and they thought like, oh, we're gonna crush NRG and then we'll go to Worlds, it'll be fine. But I don't think that like I don't feel like C9 got complacent. And I just think as an org, they are not satisfied with their lot in life. Like I really doubt that the organization is happy that NRG was getting all the glory of being the only Western team to make it out of groups. That's like an ego check for Jack and everybody. So I don't see it that way. Is there anything you want to shout out here at the end though, Olympic?
Yeah. I want to shout out Alienware, of course. I want to shout out Cubby. You're gonna do great as a new host. And yeah, love Hotline League.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
calling.
much for the call, and we'll catch you next time. So off Cubby goes to get the next caller. Thank you to. Did we get any subs? No new subs recently. If you're in the chat and you're watching, might I suggest hovering your cursor over the screen and just testing. There should be a little button that pops up there. Maybe it says free Prime or Prime sub. It's a little crown. Just do me a favor and see if that works. Max Drixton is here. Max, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Wow, we had Pittsburgh and Philly. Are you an Eagles fan?
No, I'm a Patriots fan.
Okay, well, I'm sorry for you still. Eagles just lost. Anyway, moving forward. Travis doesn't want to hear about football.
Spoilers. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Sure. So the take that I put is that LCS this year had the highest average level of player strength we've seen in a while, which paid off with NRG's performance at Worlds.
You said at the highest average player strength we've seen in a while. And that's why, and that paid off with NRG's performance.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at 2023, do I agree with that? So we had Doublelift and Bjergsen come back, and whether or not people want to say they were good or not, I mean, they're great players, and I think consistently test people. I think I don't know. I mean, the mid lane pool was pretty soft. Top was interesting. How do you feel about this, Cubby?
I have mixed feelings about this one, which is kind of why I was interested to pull this, because I do think that like I thought NRG played well at Worlds, but I don't know if that was from player strength. Like, I think that the great part about NRG is that this was a team that always showed up, and I think that they had decent drafts and like knew how to play out those drafts well. NRG, like if you look back at this year, like NRG never choked. And we did see a big rise in like some talent coming in from Challengers League, especially in mid, that changed things. We saw, I think AD was actually pretty strong this year in LCS, like with some of the players coming in, like with Doublelift and Prince. And then I think other roles, like we lost Inspired, and I thought Jungle was like, it's usually the best role in NA. I felt like Jungle was fine. Like I think Jungle's been better in other splits. I think that Top was pretty bad this split and was definitely better in other splits. Like I missed seeing Impact play in playoffs. I thought support was pretty meh this split. So I don't know. I was kind of like curious because I think I can say for marksman that I thought that there was pretty good marksman playing LCS. And like jungle's always been good, but like I can find better splits. But I'm kind of curious like what we thought of like stacking up, like overall, like past splits. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
what were the players, or what made you feel like the average player strength was just higher this year, Max?
So I feel like, especially in AD carry, I feel like the top, like 6 AD carries were all players that I would have wanted to see at Worlds. But also I think, in top lane, there were, probably 4 or 5 top laners that I would have been comfortable seeing. Junglers, there were probably 4 junglers. Mid lane, I agree, was probably the weakest role in LCS right now. But in general, I think that a lot of the weakness of LCS teams were from like coordination issues. Like Team Liquid, I think, had very strong players but weren't able to pull it together as a team. I think the same is true of FlyQuest. And I think that makes their players look worse than they are. But on an individual basis, I think, the players are still very good.
You know what? I do like that part. Because it's hard, because when I look at the roster, like I think of the performance of the players this year, I do feel like a lot of the roles were not particularly stacked. But when I think about how many good players were on teams that underperformed, that is very true, right? Like that Dignitas lineup that we all thought, like, hey, this is a pretty good lineup, and it just consistently seemed to struggle. And I guess they had that one streak at one point in time during the summer, but they always do that. We saw how much FlyQuest was just a complete flop. Like the 100 Thieves stuff didn't really pan out the way people expected it to. Like there were just a lot of rosters that were not living up to expectations. And so by that metric, I guess you could say there were good players in the league that were just not able to meet their potential because there were a lot of like good players on bad teams. I don't know. What do you think of that, Cubby?
I mean, I can look at some of the bottom teams and like call out good players on there. Like I think Double Diff played well this year. I thought Rich was fine this year, even if he like ended up being exposed a little bit in playoffs. I mean, FlyQuest, like, I thought Impact was good. Yeah, I can go look at those teams and like pick out good players, or like I feel like teams lost because like they didn't play as a team. Like 100 Thieves was painful to watch as a team. FlyQuest was painful to watch like as a team play the game. Like I felt like it was less like, oh, this player is so bad that like they just can't win, right? Whereas like that's happened in the past. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess, well, I don't know. It's a really interesting thing to think about. I wonder, 5 months from now, at the end of spring split, what the consensus will be on this year. Because I do think there's a big argument, not to go too far into 2024, but that next year the average player is going to be far worse than the LCS, like compared to this year. Maybe we'll look back next year on this year and be like, man, the league was so much stronger then. We'll have to see. But Max, thanks for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, I just want to shout out Mad Magical. He released the news, I think, this weekend that he's not going to be casting NACL next split, which is pretty sad. So I think he just used some support. If you can, sub to his Patreon or just send him a nice message on Twitter, I think he'd appreciate it.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, he was a really hard worker, and I was really bummed to hear that news this week. So that's a great shout out. Thanks for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Max, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, bye.
I that's an interesting call. Like I don't know. I don't think the answer is a yes, but it's like a curious one to like look back on, like individual strength, like when it was at its best for NA. I'd probably say like season 6 is like when I felt like things were looking the best for NA, like individually, and then TSM got spanked at Worlds. But I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I guess I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Cubby, you want to go grab the next caller?
Yep.
All right. Thank you to a large Farva for gifting a sub. M. Lewis No for the Prime, and we just played. Thanks for the Prime. Bella, if you're in the chat, you have not replied to my most recent message about tomorrow. So let me know. I know you were here earlier. We've got 2 more callers to go. Cubby's grabbing the next one. Thank you to Cubby for taking over the role of the caller fairy, the ferryman who brings in the callers. Do appreciate all of you for tuning in. It's a little smaller of a live audience this time because we're not on YouTube. I didn't want to test. I didn't want to stress too much since I'm on the road right now, and I wanted to make sure we could get at least one stream going. And also just because I think it's right before the holidays, people are leaving. There's not been much going on. But I like episodes like this where we get to reflect on the previous year. And I think it's important because so much stuff happens in esports so quickly that we often we forget how wild it is within the context of a 12-month period. So that's why I think it's always really nice to like have these episodes to just reflect on like, man, how crazy is this, 12 months later. Anyway, we've got LNA here. LNA, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Close.
Oh yeah, very
talk...
close to where I'm at in Austin. What do you want to talk about on the show, though?
I wanted to just shout out NA players in 2023. I thought it was maybe not the strongest season, kind of following up on the last call, but definitely because of NA players. A really great season for personalities and stories, and I think that almost every team that was like interesting, was interesting because of NA players. So I think NRG.
Go ahead and highlight some if you'd like.
Yeah, I think NRG is a pretty obvious story, and I think we already talked about it quite a bit tonight. But then I think, looking at some other top teams or potential top teams, e.g., the story of JoJo in his comeback year. I think Golden Guardians with the rise of Licorice and Stixay or the revival. I think even kind of lower end teams like IMT Revenge was kind of the one shining light on that team. And then 100T was kind of the story, this kind of failed story, but was still interesting just because there were young NA players on it to see if the young guys could support the old vets. And then really the kind of other piece to it is that with Double Lift and Bjergsen retiring in the same year, it seems like the kind of race for the crown is down to maybe Berserker, JoJo, and Blabber. So 2 out of 3 are actually NA residents.
Yeah, no, I like this take a lot, especially because within the last week or so, I released a video talking about how I would like to see Riot change the import rule. And I've had to sit through so many comments on YouTube, wading through them, of people who are just saying like, NA players suck. They should completely remove the import rule because these players all are terrible or they're just bad. Why should we have space for them whenever we can just have import players, et cetera, et cetera? But I think this year really defined the strength of so many North American players. And that's not to take anything away from amazing players like Berserker who continue to shine in our league in this year. But I think JoJo continued to be such a standout. When you saw the players like Palafox and Dokla on NRG that found such success, and when you did see a lot of big name import players continue to flop in yet another year of like, hey, coming over here and then boomeranging back with like Prince and Vikla and stuff, I really do appreciate you putting a spotlight on North American players and North American talent in the league. Cubby, obviously, I know you're huge on NA talent. I don't know what you'd like to add here.
I mean, I was the one that was, kind of defending Mask. But I will say that, like, part of why I was kind of defending Mask as a pickup was the fact that there were so many players that did move up and like get promoted from challengers, right? Like APA and Insanity were big. Jojo had a great year, NRG winning. I really like this take because I think one of the things that I will think about when I look back on 2023 is, hey, some of those import like teams didn't work out, right? Or even like when TL worked out, it was because like they had to use both their challengers mid laners, and their entire strategy was built around Harry and Yawn being developed by them, so that they could put imports around them and make sure that was a team that could work, right? So I don't know. I think that like we did see, like, I love the Licorice and Stixay shoutouts. Like the resurgence of those guys, I think was great. I want to throw Hui in there too. I think did have his best split I think I've ever seen him have, like as support in summer. I really think like when I look back on this split, I'm gonna remember like Insanity and APA stepping in. I'm gonna remember the like how TL built like mixing their challengers program with imports, and that they got it to work, right? It took time, but they did get it to work. And I'm gonna remember FlyQuest 100 Thieves like struggling, right? And I think that next year will be kind of a new generation almost for LCS, like a new start for LCS, going like, you know, back to 8 teams as well. I think that they were really trying to sell that with the LCS 10, but it really feels like it's going to hit next year. When I look at this year, I'm going to kind of see it as a transitioning point. You know, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I really agree. Alan, I don't know if you have anything you want to add on to this since we kind of riffed off your take, but well, always a tough call, whatever. I love the take, but we also just completely agree with you, you know?
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, I think the only thing I'd add is, you know, since we're not talking about next year, you know, big hope after 2023 that a lot of great NA players get on all these, you know, reduced teams for 2024, because we haven't thought about 2024 yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is rough when we're not seeing Stixay and Licorice starting next year. So, yeah. Anything that you want to shout out before we go off onto our next caller?
I have a big gripe, Travis, and it's that 3 years ago I bought some Alienware peripherals, and they are still working. And I'm just upset about it because I like to support from some of my favorite content makers, but Alienware just makes products that are too good and they won't break, so I can't buy new ones. So just like to say, you know, shout out to Alienware for making their stuff too good.
Timestamp, clip, put that in the video. Yeah.
Well, if you have any social media, feel free to voice that complaint to Alienware and tag me so that they know that if only they made less superior peripherals, you would be able to support me by purchasing new ones. So, but no, I really appreciate that, LNA. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coco.
Yeah, and have a good one. Hopefully we'll catch you in the new year.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year.
See ya. All right. We've got 2 more callers to go. We grabbed another one here in a second. Cubby's off to grab them. Thank you to Django Bango for the Prime. Really appreciate it. Let's see. What else is going on here? Thank you to every subbing or putting support under the channel. Always really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody all this year for supporting all the content that I've been making. It's been a really crazy year, a weird year. Obviously, the league has changed a ton. The entire esports industry has changed a ton. And there's been big changes in my life, and both professionally and personally. So I just want to, you know, if you're listening to this right now, thank you. You know, especially I know many of you listen to my voice, even as it has audio issues intermittently on certain episodes every week. And I just really want to say thank you for that. So hopefully everybody's having a good holiday break and enjoying things as they head into the end of the year. I know not everybody gets time off, but hopefully even if you're not getting time off, you have some time that you can relax or be reflective or see family or just get in a couple of fun games of your preferred thing, be it League of Legends, Magic the Gathering, pick up a good book, any of that. So Cubby is getting our last 2 callers here. Looks like there's maybe some issues with one of them, but it looks like we've got one joining now, and that person is Ren. Ren, where are you calling from?
I guarantee you I'm the first caller you've ever had from Cheyenne, Wyoming.
From Cheyenne
Yeah,
Mountain?
probably.
Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Cheyenne, Wyoming. Well, I can't check the other 300 episodes, but I think there's a very good chance that's probably true. What do you want? What do you want to talk about in the episode?
Yeah, what my take was that I think the LCS is pushing in the wrong direction when it comes to audience capture. I think the demographic of the viewers and fans is trending older, and they should lean into that.
Do you feel like they have tried to capture a younger audience?
I think we saw that last year with the way they tried to kind of catch the untapped Twitch audience. And if you're going to get older people, you're not going to do it on 3 or 4 o'clock on a Wednesday morning or afternoon, right? We got jobs.
So you just feel what do you mean by trying to? Do you think it was a timing thing where they were trying to? You're saying like the fact that they were trying to switch to weekdays in the afternoon, that was trying to get the younger audience?
I don't know if it was trying to get the younger audience, but I think it was ignoring where their demographic lies and where the strength is of league's viewership.
So what, like, maybe for clarification then, like, where would you put the strength? Like, if you had to like give like would it be like 24 to 32? Like, like you want to like give like an age bracket, or like kind of like where do you think the strength is?
Well, just I did a little bit. When I was coming up with this take, I jumped on Twitch because I don't get on Twitch very much. I'm a YouTube viewer almost exclusively, and I thought maybe there's a bunch of really popular streamers that I don't know that are all 16 to 18 or 21, right? But there's not. Almost all of the popular streamers are anywhere between 28 and 30 in that way. You've got T1, you've got Night Blue and all those guys at that area. I mean, you have a couple like the Bows and Dantes that are like 23, 25, but I'd say it's anywhere between 24 and 30 is probably your time where that's your target demographic. I don't think everybody has been watching for 13 seasons or 10 seasons or whatever it is, but I do think it's way more than focusing on trying to catch new viewers seem to be the wrong way to go. My opinion would be we should bring in the older viewers that have kind of become a little disenchanted with us, and that would bump up the numbers. And when you bump up the numbers, then you can drive your FOMO.
What would you like to have seen them do differently this year to make sure that they're recapturing that older audience that maybe you feel like they are not aiming for?
Well, I think the change to the weekends is a good idea. Like I said, I mean, we have jobs. That's important. I really liked the new content creator driven content that they did. I thought that was really fun to watch. I also think that what they should be doing is I think they should be finding ways to consolidate and make it easy to look at league as a whole. I think the LOL esports website is dog water, which sucks. I want to go there and I want to pay attention to it. I had to do it during Worlds when I was, up at 6 in the morning or whatever watching games, but it's brutal. I think you need a centralized location where everybody can go to get all their team information. All the team content should be on there. If you go to a team page on LOL esports, it's a picture of 5 dudes. That's it.
So we're going a little bit off topic, but I do want to talk about this a little bit. LOLesports.com, I agree that it's like really rough to go there from a functionality standpoint, where it's like you want to go look at the schedule for something. Well, you can't just click LCS schedule and see it's starting on this day at this time. Or you want to go look at an article about when LCS Spring Finals is. Like, that is oftentimes hidden or not updated on the main page or whatever. I do think, on the other hand, I don't worry too much about them not having like all the team content there, because I don't think that people nowadays travel to like a destination website to go look at, like, to go try to view content. They go to like content aggregators, either Reddit or like other social media websites, or they let YouTube's algorithm serve it to them directly. So like, I don't worry too much about, like, if they invested a ton of time into LollySports.com and made it so like, hey, you can deep dive into all your different teams and see all their content and stuff. That sounds really great, but I also just don't view it as the way that the majority of the internet uses the internet these days. But on the front of just like making it easier to figure out when the fuck the games are happening and what those games are, I think that is a perfectly reasonable thing to say would help every demo, not just like the older demo, figure this stuff out, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think you don't need to have a really in-depth thing. Just when you click on a team's name, here's their YouTube page, here's their social medias. I think that
Sure.
there's a couple really simple things you could do that would highlight things really effectively.
I think that's probably true. I just wonder how much those would get clicked. Like if you told me that those things get clicked 10 times a day, or less, if they put that stuff in, I'd believe you. Like it's just there's oftentimes things where you are like, this will be really nice, and then it's just sort of like not how people tend to navigate products these days.
Well, that's true, but I think a lot of it's just because we end up in situations where nobody wants to go to the website, right? Like you said, the scheduling thing is incredibly frustrating to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the skit like that stuff is very true. Like people go I think people tend to go to websites like glowysports.com with a specific intent, right? Like I need to go find they're more likely trying to Google LCS spring schedule or something. And then when Google fails them, they're just like, all right, I'll go to lollysports.com, and then they try to navigate it and it fails. Um, and so I think that is the most important part, for sure. But we kind of gone off topic. Cubby, what do you make of this stuff?
I mean, I clicked on the website now, and it says how to buy your 2020 LCS Spring Finals tickets. So I think that's a pretty big fucking problem. But everyone's kind of forgotten about it. So, I have like two takes. I think that the website's a joke, but I also think that the best thing that they could do is we're gonna take a page from Dota 2's book, and in the client you can go spectate any game that's being played in the esport in your own client. And I think that's the move. I think like they can do other things outside of the website that would be better. Like for actually like netting just anyone who plays the game. And also, I think that the idea of like rewarding the diehard demographic is good, but we did have a call from someone that was like a newer viewer earlier, like evies, and I think that newer viewers are important for anything. Like you have to find a way to attract the newer audience, especially in gaming, because we're gonna maybe break the fourth wall here for some of the viewers that may have not heard this spiel before. But the demographic that is spending money to sponsor in gamings, I should say the companies, the demographic they want is 18 to 24. Because like what we figured out when I was pitching this to my university, so like fun background on me, I co-founded the first varsity program, esports program at a D1 school, and we were like the 9th in the nation. And part of why we were able to pull this off is that like we did a lot of research on sponsors like the student base, and we found that your typical esports person, they're of higher socioeconomic status because of how expensive a PC is to own in the US. They're more likely to be in STEM majors, which makes it really appealing for colleges because they're more likely to pay more money for school. And they're smart enough with tech where they're going to use ad block. So like a lot of like sponsor money that comes into esports, they want to get the 18 to 24 year olds, and that's where you see like who is sponsoring esports. It's car insurance, car companies, insurance in general, phone companies, it's banks, it's credit cards. It's every company where if they get you as an 18-year-old as a customer, they have you as a customer for life because the switching cost for this is like too much. Like, do you want to switch your bank like at home, right? Probably not. Or like, and that was like a lot of like some of the non-endemics that came in and spent big. There of course are endemics. Like, you know, I make monitors. I want to advertise in esports, right? Like that makes sense. So I think that like it's actually really important that games continue to get this demographic because that is actually what's going to sell sponsors and what is going to fund the league. It is this demographic. And we can have a different discussion. Like I can put my marketing major hat on and be like, all right, how can we ethically advertise to these people? Right? Because I think that as someone brought up in the chat, like credit cards can be predatory. Yeah, you should like that's like a different discussion. Right? But that is ultimately like where the money is going to come in for esports. And I do think it's really important for the life of anything to actually attract younger fans, which happens in sports with youth sports and everything, and turn them into fans for life, right? I think that rewarding the diehards, like if they go, obviously like you don't want to see that, but you have to. I think it's easier to maintain viewers than it is to get new ones, especially when the game gets harder to understand every year. So, yeah.
I think that's true, but I think it's also important. The previous caller, how did her friends get involved?
It's fantasy.
Well,
Like
yes,
get into the
but
fantasy. Yeah.
she roped it. They roped them in through fantasy, right?
Yep.
But it was an older viewer who said, "Hey, you should check this out,"
Yep.
and that's how it happens,
Yeah.
right? So I think you're super right about new being important.
Mhm.
I think there's probably a player behavior team thing that has an aspect in there too. Our game needs to be far more fun and welcoming than it is,
Mhm.
but I don't expect Hotline League to be able to change that situation.
Well, I mean, ex-host is commissioner now. Who
That
knows?
that is true. Sometimes I feel like what's his name in what was the second Clerks when he's like, I'm taking it back. Like
Yeah.
whenever I'm in solo queue, just trying to be decent to people, trying to as cringe as it is, just trying to be a good. I guess I'm just too old, is what it is. That's my problem, I guess.
You're old, and you're saying we need to make sure we only continue to get old people watching the league.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my intent. That wasn't my intent.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I think, I mean, we talked about this maybe 6 months ago when I think it was after like a Cutie Cinderella episode, like LCS visit, where it's like there is a bit of a battle for what the LCS is supposed to be and what it will be going forward. And I think older viewers are always going to be frustrated when they see changes that are made more towards attracting newer viewers. And it is on Mark and the rest of the LCS team now to figure out like who is the target. Like, are they willing to move away from people who are my age, more towards people who are Cubby's age, for instance, or the newer crew of folks who watch the league or who grew up with it in high school and college and are now getting out. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they approach that. But I think your question or your point is like a very valid one, right? Which is like, who is this league for, and how are they going to go for it? So, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we start to wrap things up?
I had a couple things. Number one, to the previous caller, I think it's super impressive that someone who plays League doesn't break peripherals regularly. I think that's awesome.
Very true. We don't know if they maybe they only watch. They didn't say they played.
Maybe they try, and Alienware is just that good,
Maybe that's what it is. I had one question for you, Travis. It's a little off topic. I was wondering. I've seen your book takes thing. What did you think of the Red Rising book 6?
I really loved it. I was really struggling with the second saga of Red Rising. I still liked it. I still liked this ones, but I felt like they were pretty big step downs from the original trilogy. And I thought six did a great job of returning to a lot of the fundamentals. And I won't give any spoilers, but I definitely, the ending was very surprising to me. But yeah, I've thought about doing a video about that book, and maybe during my break, if I get time to, I will. Maybe the book channel will get an update now that Mark's not around to support it. I'll make it look like he was the one holding me back.
Well, that's terrific. I felt the exact same way. The first the books 4 and 5 had me a little bit disenchanted with the whole thing, and then 6 just kind of swung me back. So
yeah, I think it was good. So
maybe
we'll see the LCS follow suit.
There you go. I wanted to thank Cubby. I'm a Bronco fan, right? So I appreciate the Bears preventing the Broncos from being 0-6 earlier in the year.
Oh my god. Okay, small story.
I appreciate you guys coming through there.
So. Small tidbit. I was actually, while that game was being played, I was at a wedding that was taking place in Colorado. So I was surrounded by Broncos fans watching that game, and it was, the Bears were up 28-0, and we lost, and it was tragic. It was brutal. Anyway.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to make sure is your head mod is the name Numi? Is that right?
Yes, Numi is the community manager for TGI.
Huge shout out to them for going through all the effort to get the back end stuff or the front end stuff working for the YouTube subs, because it just wasn't working, and I guess there's still some issues, but took a ton of time setting up my stuff and kept in touch with me over the last week. I really, really appreciate it. And
Oh
then it was
wow!
off.
What was the issue? You were to get Discord and YouTube stuff synced.
Yeah, the YouTube, there's still some issue with it syncing and it's not working, but Numi went above and beyond. And like I said, it's over the span of about a week. So I big thanks, huge thanks.
That's really cool. I'm sorry to hear that there's issues there. I know that YouTube's back end is not as fleshed out in as terms of Twitch, in terms of getting a lot of that API stuff. Like even Nightbot, I feel like works way laggier over there. So I am happy that we are more often streaming on YouTube these days, but I still continue to feel like that platform is not, it's inferior to Twitch and from what it offers from like a streaming perspective. But I know a lot of people like it more, so happy to continue to do it. Either way, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, you guys have a Merry Christmas, huh?
Yeah, happy holidays. See it. All right. Cubby, we had another person in the waiting room, but they disappeared. Is that what happened?
I got him. Yeah. It was a mic issue. I'm gonna get him real quick.
Okay, cool. Oh, we got one more caller to go. Thank you, Mellow Jello, for the Prime. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all the support from everybody. We'll see if our last caller is able to get their microphone working. Any luck? Okay, here we go. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is M. Lewis Snow. I'm calling from frigid Duluth, Minnesota. Recently exited the hot tub for Cubby's sake.
I am envious of your hot tub. That sounds really nice right now. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
Yeah, so in the spirit of looking back at 2023, I think in 2023 the LCS was a more compelling product than the LEC for the first time in years. There's a couple things about that. First of all, this is not me shit talking the LEC. The LEC is how I got into League of Legends. And I just think the LCS has really stepped up its game in terms of the quality of its content. I think that the teams, whether or not they were better, I know there was an earlier call about that, is one thing, but they were definitely more competitive with each other this year. And then we had some just incredible stories in both splits. We had FlyQuest starting strong, but Golden Guardians ultimately taking over in spring, making it to finals. And then we had obviously NRG, I almost said CLG, having NRG win Summer Split and then also do its incredible stuff at Worlds. Whereas the LEC has kind of felt stagnant for the last year or two in terms of its competitive play. And I think they've lost some of their bigger hitters in terms of content, at least the kind of content that I'm into. I'll admit I got into esports because of Overwatch League and LEC, so like that should tell you my sort of demographic. But although I am 30, so.
I mean, I think one of the things that you didn't even mention is we just had a superior format. Which is funny because it's not like we even chose that format as a new thing. It's just they ran it down by switching to a format that I don't think is better. And especially having weird stuff where like you have these finals that aren't happening in arenas, and then you have a final that doesn't really feel like a final. It's just a lot of weird stuff. I think that really screwed with what the LEC was this year. But other than that, I do give a shout out, yes, as you said, to a lot of the content that the LCS was making. Obviously, Mark was a huge component in that, but the teams behind that as well that did things like Are You Smarter Than and Catching Up with Double Lift. I think the LCS pushed its way in a way that the LEC didn't. And quite frankly, I'm excited to see what the LCS can do when it's on even footing, so to speak, with weekends as the LEC. Not that it's much of a competition these days, but I do think your point is a well-rounded one. Cubby?
I think that the LEC. So it's funny because like when I've been on the show and we talk about format, I kind of have Mark here, and then I'm like, yeah, I pretty much agree with Mark, and like yada yada yada. Now I kind of have to take Mark's seat, and like I think the LEC format is a good idea that was poorly executed. And I think that where I agree with you is that one roadshow sucks. And I know that like there was a take that I didn't take in the Discord, but someone said that they really enjoyed the roadshows this year as they were able to make it. And I think the roadshows are really fun. I think that is a big part of like having 2 splits is like having a big final, and the fact that LEC only had 1 stunk. I also think someone else said that like LEC kind of felt like it was G2 and everyone else this year. And I want to say that things were a little bit more competitive, but there was still this underlying sentiment that G2 was going to win for the majority of splits. And it was more interesting for me. Like the most interesting LEC storyline was actually Fnatic making Worlds this year. And I don't think that was nearly as interesting as NRG winning for NA. So I think that is all like also kind of plays into it. I still want to say that I like the format for LEC. I think that the double groups is a good idea. I think that going to best of 3s early on is a good idea. I think that they just need to. I actually think that if they want to do the 3 split thing, that they should condense the schedule. And if anything, like if they want to commit to that, like it might be a little bit out of left field, but I actually like make it 4 tournaments and just go back to like OGN style instead of 3, and then you try and have like 2 big road shows. It's like you have 2 things that like end up in spring and then 2 things that end up in summer, and you do a road show like for the later ones for each. I don't know. I think that actually could be more interesting than 3 because winter split felt useless, and I think LEC really suffered from that. I hope it's better. I don't know what it is this split yet, but I hope it's better. I don't know if they've announced anything.
Can I respond to some of that?
Go
ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
Well, so I want to respond to that, but you can go first.
No. I was just gonna say I don't know if LEC has announced anything. I was agreeing with Cubby. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, so kind of 2 things there that stood out. So yeah, I had the exact same feeling. Even though the games were more competitive, it did always feel like G2 was just going to win stuff. And I am not compelled by one team winning back to back to back, etc. That's part of why I was really glad that NRG won as well. I think Cloud9 winning that many in a row would have been boring. So I think there's that. The format is an interesting one and one that I don't feel qualified to speak on. But the other thing that I think was important for this, the strength of the LCS narrative and sort of the direction it might go in the future was the fact that the teams that did well were Golden Guardians and NRG, and sort of the stories about how both of those teams were built. I think there's a lot of parallels between some of the players' journeys on both of those teams. And so I think that really helped add a lot, whereas like there were really cool young talents. I think Yike on G2 as an example in the LEC, but when you go straight to G2, that doesn't really have the same impact to me as like struggling for years and then finally taking the trophy, or beating the 9-9 curse and going to MSI. So I think it wasn't just that the teams were kind of closer in the LCS rather than just having one clear leader, but also which teams were closer and the way that those teams kind of came to be there was really cool. And I think, I know you like to talk about this a lot, Travis, but I would argue that if we hadn't been on weekdays, we might have at least stabilized viewership, because I think that this stuff being so compelling would have helped it retain viewership.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's a very good chance. And it's hard when you're always like, you have to kind of speculate because we don't really know, but I agree that there's definitely some hijinks there. All right. Thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, shout out to Cubby for working with me to get my audio working. Shout out to Cubby for becoming the next LCS commissioner, since that seems to be the promotion path these days. And shout out to Alienware for my fantastic Alienware monitor. I bought it using your link, so hopefully that showed up, I don't know, like 7 months ago now. And thanks for having me on, first time caller, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for supporting our sponsors. I really appreciate it. So thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right, so that is the end of our first show together, Cubby. How do you feel about it? Do you think we survived? Did you survive?
I actually appreciated a couple of the takes that we had tonight. I think we did okay.
Only a couple.
I'm proud of myself that I restrained from taking any challengers takes, Travis. There were a lot as they saw that I'm on. We might save those for 2024 Outlook,
Sure, I'm sure you'll figure out ways to infiltrate challenger stuff in.
Also, I am playing Gruul Dinosaurs, and I'm Plat 2 in Magic. as of now.
Hey,
So
it's very funny because
found
I
that
was
on
thinking about the
PGA.
fact that you play Magic, and I realized that I'm going to have to forcibly hold myself back from talking about Magic on this because Mark always did a good job of preventing me from getting our viewers left or to leave because he would just shut down my ability to talk about Magic. And now I realize that I have to self restrain now that he does not do it for me. So
Yeah, I'm enabling you.
yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So but I do appreciate it, Cubby, and I thank everybody who's tuning in and listening. Look, I think we had a great episode. There will be episodes where I think people are like, oh, Cubby and Travis is just not the same as with Mark. That's because Mark and I had 6 years to build this shit together. And I think Cubby and I will definitely get there in less than 6 years for sure. But I think it is a little bit of back and forth while we continue to get there. But I mean, honestly, this episode I think went really well, especially given that it was a travel show for me and it's a rough one. So
I also realized that paying attention to all the takes and giving takes yourself is actually I'll get used to that a little bit because usually I just get the chill and then I think about it for the entire time.
yes,
But no. That no, it was fun, and yeah, I mean, it's gonna be different, right? Like you and Mark had your things, like we'll find our stuff, like we have too, and I think that was like why the last show was fun, like why people really enjoyed it, because obviously you guys were able to talk about a lot of things like you were into, and but we'll find some interest that like we have shared as well, and yeah, I might be an excuse for me to like start going through some more shows. I assume you guys would have talked about like The Boy and the Heroine as well. Have you seen that, Travis? You're on the road right now.
Mark was always the person who
He's the
did a
movie
good
guy.
job of watching stuff and then shaming me for not watching it. So, but we will find stuff. I mean, I do think you'll be able to talk a little bit about sports stuff at the beginning of the shows too, if you have a team that's popping off recently or whatever. He would talk about anime. I don't give a shit about anime, and he would find a way to do that. So you'll figure out your own stuff that you want to sneak in that I don't care about.
Fortunately for you, Travis, I'm a Chicago sports fan, and I don't want to talk about any of my teams ever because it's always terrible. So yeah, you're lucky there.
Yeah, I'm going to Chicago in February for MagicCon. So
you are?
Yes.
Anybody? I got food spots for you.
You got recommendations? You're saying?
Oh hell yeah, for food? Oh yeah. I got some spots. I'll see what you like food wise, and we'll have some good stuff.
Mexican food.
Oh, Chicago is not great. You're from LA and you're going to Chicago.
LA and San
you want
Diego,
to get Mexican food here?
No, you asked what food I like, and I love Mexican food. So
are you trying to get that like? I might get made fun of for this, but it might be trying to get that Chipotle sponsor back. Build it up.
We'll see. We'll see what AAA mainstream blue chip sponsors are here in 2024 in esports winter. It's cold out there, so we'll see. But anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in, and thank you everybody for supporting Cubby. Please continue to do so.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Yeah,
send him polite feedback on Twitter.
Yes.
Tell him if he's being too polite. Tell him if he
be impolite. Yeah. Get me out of being polite. Just flame the shit out of me, and I need you guys to put like. Mark went through 6 years and 300 episodes of just like being worn down by callers every week, man. I need that like within 10 episodes so that I can just be equally as dejected. And then maybe I can become commissioner in like 2 years instead of 6, Maybe that's it. Yeah.
But yeah, feel free to give Cubby feedback and me feedback as well, obviously. Though I feel like I've heard most of it from you folks at this point in time. So, because we do... As is the case, anytime you end up in one of these transitions, both people need to work on figuring out their flow, and it's going to take a little bit as we ease back into it. But I think for now it's been really solid, and I hope everybody has a great, happy holiday and a good New Year. We will be back tentatively on January 8th, so you have 3 weeks without Hotline League, but you guys are all going to be doing cool stuff, hopefully, anyway. So, thanks everyone. Thanks, Cubby, and we'll see you all.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yep. Hey, it's been really sports been really cool, so I appreciate everyone. Thanks, Travis. It's been a lot of fun.
So.
Yeah.